Hi, so here's our hut. You should have this, if not, load it in now. And we're going to start breaking it down into the different components we just discussed in the previous lecture. We might make a few tweaks along the way as we go along. And then we're going to start UVing the chimney. So that should take us to the end of this lecture. So let's get started. So the first thing is breaking it down into its components. It should be fairly broken up already, but what I want to make sure that you do is break it up in the correct components and make sure it's all named correctly. We get rid of stuff we don't need. So the first thing to do is go to your display box up here in your panel, top right, go down to it, unhide all. Any objects you've got hidden away in your scene that you don't need, just delete them. Once you've done that, you've got a clean, fresh model like this with no extra stuff in it. Don't worry about lights, we can exclude them anyway. Just go to save as, and just save one with UV written on the end, just so you've got a backup of it. You're not going to write over your one that you've created previously, so you've got two copies of it effectively. So HD main hut with underscore UV on the end. I know we haven't done that for other objects, but this is such a big object and a lot of work's going to go into it. And if you lose it for whatever reason, you accidentally save over it, it could be a bit of a disaster. So you're just sort of covering yourself. We might even just go along and make more copies of it and just put a number on the end like 01, 02, just to sort of keep it backed up. So save UV like that. And now let's go around, and what we're going to do is, as we sort out each object, we're going to hide it and then go on to the next one. So the first one is your chimney and your chimney pots. Make sure they're connected, and they are, if you go to modify, if you go to element, these are still separate elements, so but they're within that one object. And just make sure that that's named correctly. Got to make sure all our naming conventions are all tight and obvious, so HD hut chimney, perfect. So we go to our display, tab, and down here hide selected. So that's a chimney sorted out. Let's do our roof. So what we want to include in this is just make sure the roof, obviously, and all the beams that are attached to that roof are included in it also. And what we're going to do probably is, when we UV this, we're just going to UV the top and underneath, although we're just going to make that much smaller. We're not going to use the UV space on the underneath. And we're going to include just one beam, because what we're going to do is copy it across. Once we've UV'd one, we're just going to copy it, and each beam's going to share the same UV space. I'm not entirely sure if that's wise, but we're going to find that out as soon as we've done it. Once we start texturing, we're going to see how it looks. So that's called HD hut roof. That's pretty cool. So hide that, make sure there's nothing left behind. Yeah. Do the steps. So make sure on the steps you've got this, obviously the steps, the two sides, and the two beams that are attached to the sides also. Make sure they're all attached, and call that HD porch steps. Perfect. So hide selected. These are all the handrails that we created. No, that's cool. They're all attached. HD porch handrails, that's perfectly fine. So hide selected. Okay, so the porch, we had groups of 5. We're going to delete the ones we're not using. Okay, so these are interesting. Where did we put these? We can include them with these. So we're going to call it, so we're going to just attach. Okay, so that's a group. So we've got to ungroup that. Group, ungroup, so they're all individual objects again now. And then we're going to just attach them all for now, because they'll still be elements of. So let's just attach them so we can get them into one group of objects, and make sure we call that HT porch planks, like that. So that's that one, and we hide selected. Make sure you turn off attach, otherwise you start clicking around, you start attaching other objects, and that's not good. So hide selected there. Door frame and door, so yeah, they're both attached. I seem to remember doing that earlier. So make sure you have your hinge attached. That's going to be interesting because that's going to be metal, whereas the door frame and the door are going to be wood, and we're going to combine that in one texture, so that should be an interesting one to do. So HD door frame door, that's perfectly fine, so hide that. Window, and okay, so we've got lots of panes of glass there so that's obviously grouped together. Okay, let's leave that till last, and I can join them all together. So, and here we've got the HD main hut walls, and that's fine. So that's everything out. It includes the floor as well, but we're not going to do much for the underneath. As long as it's got a space, we can make it really small on our UV. Make it a really small island. It doesn't need to be big because you're not going to see it. As long as it's got something on it, usually something pretty dark, because it's underneath, and we want it to reflect darkness. So that's cool. So that's good. So we can hide that away. Hide selected. So a window frame. Okay, so what I'd like to do is so the window frame, HD window frame, we can hide that. Okay, so that's something. Before we start texturing this, we'll come back to it, but we're going to have to get rid of some of these faces, because there's some what we call Z fighting going on, and we don't want to waste UV space on faces that aren't needed. So we'll investigate that when we get to it. So the frame, HD window frame, that's perfectly fine. Hide selected. That leaves us all the panes of glass, and we're going to ungroup all of that like so, so they're all separate, and they're all called. We're going to just attach them all. So do this. Go to attach. Just go through and attach them all. They're going to share the same material, so it's fine. Double-sided, which is what we need, and they've got thickness just like a normal pane of glass. And we can even maybe look at putting some cracks in some of them and things like that. So it should be quite fun to do that, I think. I just put with this object selected. With the object selected, let's get the pivot point in the center of that object, just so it's there. Yeah, like that. And we're going to call this HT hut. Hut window glass, like that. That's it. That's all our objects. You can see they're all hidden over here. We've got an omni light there, which we can delete. Let's just get rid of that. Don't want it. And unhide everything else. Bring it all back in, like that. Okay, so that's all our objects. You can see they're all down there, nicely listed. HD, window frame, porch steps, porch blanks, porch handrails, all nicely named. all organized. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sets of maps we're going to create for this object, for the hut. That's quite a lot of work. So so let's start. Let's select our chimney and hide everything else. So instead of clicking down here, we can just go over here and click on hide unselected like that, and it all goes away. Okay, so this chimney, we're pretty familiar with this by now, aren't we? So what we can do is, I know we've attached all the objects, but while they're isolated like this, we can detach them. So we'll detach those at the top, just make it easier to unwrap them. Detach, we can use it. I keep scrolling down here because I'm used to doing that in the old version, but use it up here. Detach, perfectly fine. Call them pots. That's chimney pots. So now we've got our chimney, and I'm looking at these edges on the top, thinking they don't need to be like that. It certainly don't need to be like that at the bottom. Let's see what happens when we delete them. You know, a bit of optimization as we go along. It's never a bad thing. Nothing, so that's good. Okay, we're going to leave it like that. We can just have a look what it did quickly. So it's created, yeah, that's fine. It's nicely organized. So put them back on again. I'll do the same for the top. Yeah, let's do the same for the top. It just makes our mapping nice and neat and tidy. I've kept the bottom just so that when we light it, it bounces nicely. It doesn't bounce up inside, and I know I haven't done that for some of the trees, but we're going to sink the trees into the ground quite a way, and I think, you know, this might just sit on the top, so I just want to risk it for the chimney. Okay, so we just need to create a seam. So for this part, so make sure it's an editable poly. Click on UV Unwrap. Sorry, do that again. Click on UV Map. Click on Unwrap, and there's your tools here. Remember, we moved this up in a previous lecture to the top just to make it a lot easier. So I'm having to scroll down all the time. So just point to point, do it very quickly. That should be fine for the chimney itself. So let's just quick peel that. Okay, so we've got this problem again where we've got to straighten them out. We're going to use straighten, and it's not going to be good. So let's just move these out of the way. Top and the bottom. This is the top. Let's keep the top on the top and the bottom on the bottom. And we just have to make sure we leave some space for our pots. It doesn't have to be much because they're way up out of the way. So as long as they've got some UV space and it looks cool, that's fine. So this space here, I'm just going to hit straighten. Oh, it's gone the other way now. Okay, so let's just have a look at which orientation it's given us here. So turn that off. So what's that? Okay, so that's the top. So it is vertical still. So let's move this back in, and we'll look at the spacing in a moment. Just it looks like the ends of. Okay, so this space here looks like it needs to be the same as that. So that's pretty straightforward, and it's gone all the way across. Pretty much, so it's like almost two squares. There we go. That's good. I'll leave it to that. And the top is good. And the bottom is good. So now we can move this back into place. We want to use as much as the UV space as we can for that. So let's just pull it back over here. Let's get these back in line. Yeah, I think we can use a lot more space for our chimney. We want to use it as much as we can because it's quite a big area. So let's just scale this up until we hit that edge. So we can always rotate those around the other way, like this. And we can then still fit in the chimney pots, which can be quite small space anyway. You know, once we get them into Substance Painter and we start applying our imagery, our textures, we can come back and make tweaks, and Substance has a feature that lets you sort of, you know, bring it in again once you've started. So it's not like it has to stick once you've started, so to speak. So let's scale that until we get that touching that almost. Yeah, it's probably a bit too much. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. Yep, that's packed nicely. Okay, now we just need our two chimney pots. We could probably just get one in there and one in there, sideways. I'm not going to spend too much of our UV space for these. So that's good. Let's collapse that. And what I might do is share UV space even. So we do one, and then we just copy it. Yeah, let's do that. In fact, before we do that, okay, so let's just delete one. Let's detach it. Delete. I want to just extrude that in just a little bit. There we go. That's good. So I've just put the pivot in the center of this chimney pot, so I can see the pivot while I work on it. I'm just going to raise it up. Probably, okay, we don't need that bottom. We can delete that. It's going to stick right inside the chimney, so no light's going to get inside the actual chimney because it's completely sealed. And if that sinks right into it, it should be fine, which it will do. So we just need to create our scene for that object. So UV map, we unwrap. So we've got a natural edge there already because there's no polygon there, so that's fine. And we just take it up through. It's a bit like the barrel that we did earlier. Very similar, in fact. Let's just take it around like that. Now I think, do I need to do that? Let's see what that looks like. So let's just unwrap that. I think that'll do us. I don't think we even need to bother straightening it out because it's wider on the top anyway, so that's pretty cool. Let's just rotate it because it's reasonably straight. We're going to have to scale it right down so it fits, and that's got to fit too. Like that. Okay, so it's collapse all. So we select that and the chimney both together, and we do an unwrap for that, for both of them. We open the UV editor and see what we've got here. Okay, so it's going to have to scale down further. Let's just select both like this and scale. You know, like I said, I'm not too fussed about the size of the UVs on this. It's going to be a big texture. It's going to be a 2K texture, so it's going to do okay for itself, I think. That'll do. That's fine. We use the UV space quite efficiently there. Got this bit at the top. I don't want to scale this anymore because it'll look weird. Okay, so that is cool. So there we go, chimney done. See, it's pretty, unwrapping and things is pretty quick. So what we do now is we just put this back down where it was. Make sure it sinks. Don't leave it on the top sticking out. Make sure it goes right in. That way we get some ambient occlusion around there, and no light will get inside and just make it look weird or anything like that. So we copy this. So we've got two pots and they're both sharing the same UV space, so whatever texture we put on that will appear exactly on there. And just to make the difference, we can just rotate this so it will look different no matter what, slightly. Let's just separate it, and you can even just sink that one in a little bit further, just to give it a bit of a quirky look. Yeah, so save our file like that. That is the chimney and the pots done. So on to the next one. I'll see you in the next lecture.